Oh snap, YouTube. I was just talking about this probably, what, a couple weeks, a month ago. It's on Hoffman Tactical. They dropped a video about I 3D printed an AR-15. And let's just take a look at this bad boy. Right, here we go. I'm going to try to full screen this. First of all, look at that. That looks like an AR, right? Um, Clearly, it's not going to be the most durable thing in the world, but this thing looks like it's going to shoot. I wonder what they did for a barrel. Let's see. Okay. Well, they even have a rail up there, obviously. I dare say it looks like it's been shot. They got a primary arm scope on it. I have one of those myself.
Tactical. Today's video, we're going to be discussing this guy right
Not
here.
not that one, but
AR-15. Now you might be asking yourself, but is the barrel printed? Down in the comments, you're probably typing.
That's crazy. That is crazy. So like, I'm looking at this, and from what I can tell is, all you need is to be able to get a barrel, because obviously you're going to want a well-made barrel. The whole point of a rifle is to have a barrel with rifling in it. And that is the part of the rifle where you make the most contact with your projectile. So the inside of your barrel is actually going to determine how the projectile comes out of the barrel, right? The spin that's put on it, the travel, how much, pressure is built up in the chamber and going down the barrel. It has to be able to withstand all of that. So there are certain specifications, right? And obviously with a rifled barrel, you have the projectile rubbing up against the inside of the barrel, and it's turning the projectile. It's putting a spin on it, and that gives you accuracy. That is also what's going to let you take shots at like 500-600 yards. So even if they don't have like the best barrel in the world, all right, even if you just got like the cheapest barrel possible, and you manage to 3D print pretty much like the rest of this, right? You can go get a scope from anywhere. And then what? You just need magazines for an AR. They're just like all over the damn place, right? And bam, here you go. You got one of these.
And the answer is no, the barrel is not printed. The goal of this project was to print as many of the parts as possible on a 3D printer, help keep the price down, possibly lower the weight, and also just use less firearms components, and also achieve kind of a...
I don't know who would have been asking that in the first place, but I could have told you before even watching this, no, I don't think anybody is printing gun barrels. That's going to be the one part you don't want to print. Disclaimer, I might want to put that out there for anybody that actually thinks about doing something like that. Do not 3D print a rifle barrel. I guess unless you work for some kind of advanced company that's into that, and you have some kind of state-of-the-art printer that's printing with some sort of, I don't know, titanium weave fiber. That just sounds like some futuristic shit. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, but no, nobody should be printing a rifle barrel because it'll probably blow up in your face. Just not a good idea. But look, everything else here, like I doubt the magazine is 3D printed. You're probably just going to want to go get one. It would just take way too much time. I'm sure you could make a magazine with a 3D printer, but the time and the effort that's going to go into that, as opposed to just getting a freaking magazine that's supposed to fit an AR, you're just going to print around that. So it does look solid though.
Different aesthetics, better ergonomics than a standard AR-15 you could buy off the shelf. And that is kind of what I've been working towards. So on this guy right here, many of the parts that would ordinarily be made from metal or plastic on a factory AR-15 are now all 3D printed. In this case, it is a mixture of carbon fiber nylon internally and a PLA plus on the outside.
Okay, so we 3D printed all of the furniture, right? And that shouldn't be surprising because like, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these companies were like using 3D printers to fabricate stocks, or at least using part of it for some sort of process. And the stuff can be pretty durable, right? 3D printing gets better every year. This is what I've been talking about. Now, the last time I tried to fish up a 3D printed AR like photo or video or whatever, I was getting a lot of the zip guns, and I talked about it a little bit. I wish I would have had this thing to look at, right? Because this is like a prime example of exactly what I was talking about. Because of 3D printing and because of this, I think the anti-gun legislation just is never going to work. It's never going to fly. Uh, because you're never going to be able to control this, right? And criminals aren't going to give a shit about legislation and about rules and laws. If they can get one of these guns 3D printed for $50 plus the the whopping $80 barrel that they bought, they have an AR platform that looks authentic enough for like what, under $150, and then they can use that to try to go rob a bank, to try to run up into somebody's house and point guns at them. Look, man, if three people ran up in your house right now armed with these and pointed them at your face, you would get down on the damn ground and be like, the safe's over there, here's the combination. You're not going to risk your life over something like this. I don't think anyone's going to confuse this thing for a squirt gun. Right? It's the real deal. You can tell. And that's kind of what's scary about it, is you can disarm the population, and then what are we supposed to do? Because criminals don't care about the law. They're not going to follow the law, right? They're going to try to hold on to whatever guns they have, and they can just go out and get these guns, and they're going to be affordable. They're going to be cheap. That's the scary part to me, is with what's going on right now. It seems like the only effect it's really going to have is the majority of the good law-abiding population. They're the ones that are going to be disarmed. And then when a criminal gets one of these, they know that they're going to be able to pretty much run up into your house without opposition, because you can't have a gun anyway, right? So the one advantage that we have currently right now that I feel like I have is if somebody tries to run up in my house with one of these, I have a real one. Okay, so that's about the only edge you could truly really ask for, and we have that right now. But with the legislation and with the ban and with whatever the hell they're trying to do, I think even the AR I have right now, it has a pistol brace on it, and that's up in the air. They don't know if they want to get rid of those or charge a tax stamp for them, and make you transfer it to something else, which really sucks because I have a bullet in my left arm, so I actually want that brace and like to use it like it's supposed to actually be used for. So I don't know. I have to jump through a bunch of hoops for that and figure all that stuff out. Meanwhile, criminals really don't have anything to worry about, right? I can get this printed, and all it takes is what? I don't know how much resin this is. What's a jug of resin? $50, $60, right? Plus your rifle barrel, $80, and
parts
shabam.
of this gun that are from an AR-15 are the barrel, the muzzle device, the gas system, which consists of the gas tube and the gas block, our bolt carrier group, our charging handle, the fire control group, selector switch on this side over here where you can't see it, the bolt hold open, and the magazine catch that holds our magazine in place. The rest of the components are actually 3D printed. Now, we do have a few hardware components. For an example, we have 3 sets of fasteners. Up front, we have a brass melt-in insert and a single screw that comes in the front of the lower, through the upper, into the lower right here that holds it all together. Here on the stock, I need to work this out a little bit better, but right now I have a screw coming in the back and a screw coming in under here, and some melted-in brass threaded inserts in the main body of the stock to hold together the 2 pieces of the stock, the back piece here and this guy here. The parts that are actually...
The point is, he's nitpicking at this point. This thing works, right? And it looks real enough, and yeah, of course, the barrel, the receiver, these are all parts that you can get for kits. They're all over the place. And even after they make any sort of ban go through or anything, like, people are stockpiling these things right now. People are buying barrels and, like, you know, the receivers and everything, just keeping them boxed up and just setting them aside because they're going to be able to sell any of those parts for 5, 10 times the amount as soon as any sort of ban goes through. And criminals will never have, they, they will never run out of these parts to have. They will have the money for them, and people will be 3D printing these things up. Criminals will seek this out, and they'll have it, right? And the people buying the stuff up right now are going to be the ones. I mean, when they sell a barrel or a receiver or whatever, they don't know where it's going to, and they don't know what it's going to be used for, and they don't care, right? They bought that barrel for $80. Now they can sell it for $250, and they have 10 of them. They're going to sell those things, and they're going to make their money. And 9 out of 10 of those barrels, probably all 10 of them, are going to end up getting turned into one of these plastic rifles, right? That's just the way that I see it happening in the near future, especially if, you know, this ban goes through and all of the law-abiding citizens get disarmed, or at least a lot of them. Which would be unfortunate because, you know, you take the class, you pay the money, you invest the time, you get the training, you get your concealed carry permit, you know. What's the point if they make all the guns illegal? Which, of course, the police officers are going to be excluded from all this. So if you were a police officer, even for a short time, you have the right to own guns for the rest of your life, I guess. Which maybe that's going to open up the door to some people wanting to be police officers. But it's going to be all for the wrong reason, right? Because, well, I just want to be a cop for the next year or two, right? And, you know, after that, I'm going to retire. I'm going to quit or whatever, just so I can have guns, right? And I honestly think some people will do that. And what is that going to lead to? That is going to lead to us having some police officers that are there for the wrong reason, which is never a good thing, right? So yeah, I thought when I saw this video, I was like, man, this is exactly what I was talking about. And look how far we've come. Really look at this thing, right? This is a world of a difference from a zip gun. Same thing with zip guns. Somebody pulls a zip gun on me, I have a real SIG. So I'm at a pretty huge advantage there. But this goes a little bit beyond a damn zip gun. This thing looks like it will actually shoot. Maybe
metal on AR-15 are now replaced with
maybe he'll actually show himself shooting it.
3D printed parts or have been redesigned so they're not needed. Are the barrel nut? There is no barrel nut. There's an internal clamshelling.
Let's see. Just gonna fast forward a little bit. Can we? Can we? I figure halfway through it somewhere. Hopefully, yeah, there we go. He's shooting this thing.
Like the only issue we're having with this gun. My previous iterations, I actually had some that didn't have this problem. My first lower actually ejected. My first upper I printed.
Okay, so cool. He's shooting this thing. He is talking about like some little.
I ejected really well, and this one is actually very similar geometrically. So I'm not quite.
Like, let me remind you though, you don't need to be able to fire off even a whole magazine in order to rob somebody. Like it only takes one shot, you know, and sometimes it doesn't even take a shot, right? I'm sure somebody could take this plastic gun of his and not even have any ammunition in it, and they could probably go rob a goddamn 7-Eleven. Nobody's going to want to take the chance to even find out if that thing works, how well it works, you know, but it's probably going to work better than a zip gun. I'm sure you could put like real, I don't know too much about zip guns, but it looks like you could put a real pistol barrel in there, obviously, and then just print the furniture around that. It would kind of just be the same thing, and then they would get some kind of trigger assembly, you know, and make a 3D print where you could just install the trigger there. It wouldn't be the most impossible thing to do, and we already know that they've done it.
sure what's causing the problem. If you have any ideas what could it be, please leave
Look
it
at
down
that.
in the comments
So
below.
here's,
Obviously, I'll be playing all the
yo, it's
high-speed
working.
video from the GoPro here so you can see it. So please let me know what you think this is. I need to
All
investigate
right, let's
this
see this thing
and
in
get this
action.
fixed before I can release the upper into beta testing. So that's kind of the only big issue we're having right now is that weird ejection problem. And I'm having it with both bolts. Even with the AR Precision here, we're still having the problem. It's not actually causing the gun to jam every time like it was before, but it's still a problem, as you can see on the high-speed footage.
All right, let's see. Here it goes. Seems to be shooting.
Bolt held open, firing an aluminum mag. 100 yards.
Yeah, he's firing one after another. Trigger's resetting. You hear that little click. It's working. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to want to fight a war with these things. Right? But as this dude's showing, these things work. Crazy stuff, and like I said, every year 3D printing just gets better and better, and the resins that we use are getting better and better. You're just gonna end up with better and better stuff, right? And I think this really around this point in time, this is the biggest problem with a gun control ban, or not gun control ban. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. I think this is like the big problem that they would have, because they could put in a ban years and years ago, like even in like the early 90s. Yo, people didn't have 3D printers at home, and people weren't working on stuff like this. Like, even a zip gun back then was like, no, you would have to go get PVC pipes and make yourself some sort of, like, you would actually have to home build a gun instead of just having a 3D printer doing literally most of it for you, and then just screwing in a few of your parts, and you're all set. So people have always been able to make guns and firearms, right? Because they're technically not the most complicated thing in the world unless you get really advanced with them and you want really high performance. But people have typically been able to make firearms. And now, because of 3D printing, because like I said, you could put in a gun ban in like the 70s or 80s or whatever, and then it's going to be pretty effective then. But now, that same ban just is not going to work because, well, everyone's going to have access to this. Think about how many 3D printers there are out there. And are you going to stop the 3D printer industry? Are you just going to be like, whoa, guys, hold on. Come to find out, the 3D printers can actually be used to print some harmful stuff. So let's just stop doing it. That's never going to happen, right? So I think that's going to be the big issue, and this is why I'm against most of this gun ban talk. Like I said, it's really just going to disarm the law-abiding population. It's not going to really affect the criminals, especially when they have access to something like this. Now, if I'm wrong, please leave me a comment. Let me know. I'm like, open to want to talk about this, because if I am wrong about this, if there's something that I'm missing, if it's just not going to work that way, I'd like to know. Maybe it'd help me sleep better at night. But I think this is like a real issue. Man, I just hope they don't start 3D printing knives. Anyway, have an awesome day, everybody on YouTube, and hope you enjoyed.